Attention. Welcome to the Different Spectrums podcast. We dive into the wild world of mental health discussions. Get ready for profound talks, a sprinkle of humor and sarcasm, and a touch of colorful language. Just a quick heads up, our show reflects our individual opinions, which may not align with the standpoint of the podcast, our featured guests, or any related corporate entities. Our mission? To illuminate through laughter and satire because everyone needs a good chuckle. Chill out and don't stress over the small stuff. Legal troubles? No, thank you. Cancel culture? Please spare us. We'd rather keep this space lawsuit free. So buckle up, have a good time, and join us as we navigate the vibrant realm of mental health on the Different Spectrums podcast. Everybody, we back again.
Hey, we're back and we're live.
I'm Spencer, your co-host, and of course we have our licensed clinical therapist, Naz.
Hey, Dr. Naz. How you doing?
There you go. Also, remember, don't take us too seriously.
Or do. Completely up to you.
Right. And don't forget to run up those likes for us. We'd really appreciate it. So, our next guest is a licensed marriage and family therapist based in Newport Beach. She brings a blend of evidence-based methods like EMDR, ACT, DBT, and also narrative therapy into her work, really helping support her clients with anxiety, trauma, relationships, and more. She also runs the popular Instagram account, Therapist Memes for Drama Queens, using humor to destigmatize mental health. Please welcome Kate Edelstein to the show.
Hello.
Hi guys, excited to be here.
Awesome.
All right. The topic and movie we're going to be covering today is going to be The Dark Knight. We're going to be talking about parallels from Two-Face for Batman, as well as why people do the things that they do, putting labels on people, and also people who manipulate others at their weakest. With that, Naz, anything before we get into the show?
There's like a million different things to break down when it comes to Batman in this movie. A million different things. We're going to focus a little bit more on Harvey Dent and Two-Face and kind of go from there. Get to some trauma, some choices, what makes people do what they do, right? What's going on. So we're going to talk about that. Chaos. Then we're going to talk about maybe also the comics and other movies and how they say the paranoid schizophrenia, how he doesn't necessarily fit it fully there. He fits a little bit more antisocial, sociopathic. But we'll get into the source. Then we're gonna do some talking about some substance abuse today too, because that's what Kate's got that experience in. So we'll do some talking around that too. All right, let's have some fun. Let's. Does he say anything when he flips the coin? Does he just say? He doesn't say it like he doesn't have like a catchphrase like it's judgment time.
No, I don't think so. No, he just goes for it.
Okay, all right. Let's see if I heads or tails. Whoop whoop.
Whoop, whoop.
You gotta say whoop whoop, Kate.
Whoop, whoop. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'll join on. My bad.
You're
Not a
good,
good follower. Whoop whoop.
There you go.
Good. All right, cool.
You go straight there. You don't tell anybody where you're going, and I'll find you there.
I love you. I want the Joker.
From one professional to another. If you're trying to scare somebody, pick a better spot. From this height, foe wouldn't kill me.
I'm counting on it. Where is he?
I don't know where he is. He found us.
He must have friends.
Friends. You met this guy?
Someone knows where he is.
Nobody's gonna tell you nothing. That wise to your act. You got rules. The Joker, he's got no rules. Nobody's gonna cross him for you. You want this guy, you got one way. But you already know what that is. Just take off that mask. Let him come find you. How you gonna let a couple more people get killed while you make up your mind?
You wanna play games? How's that feel?
You wouldn't.
I wouldn't! You don't think I will? You don't think I will? No. No, I wouldn't. That's why I'm not gonna leave it up to me. Heads, you gotta keep your head. Tails, not so lucky. So, you wanna tell me about the Joker? Let's go again. I don't know anything! Don't! You're not playing the odds, friend. Let's do it again.
You'd leave a man's life to chance.
Not exactly.
His name's Schiff. Thomas. He's a paranoid schizophrenic. Former patient at Arkham, the kind of mind the Joker attracts. What do you expect to learn from him?
The Joker killed Gordon. He's gonna kill Rachel.
You're the symbol of hope I could never be. Your stand against organized crime is the first legitimate ray of light in Gotham in decades. If anyone saw this, everything would be undone. All the criminals you pulled off the streets would be released, and Jim Gordon will have died for nothing. You're gonna hold a press conference tomorrow morning.
Why?
No one else will die because of me. Gotham's in your hands now.
You can't. You can't.
Targeting me won't get their money back. I knew the mob wouldn't go down without a fight, but this is different. They've crossed the line.
You crossed the line first, so you squeezed them, you hammered them to the point of desperation. And in that desperation, they turned to a man they didn't fully understand.
Criminals aren't complicated, Alfred. We just need to figure out what he's after.
With respect, Master Wayne, perhaps this is a man you don't fully understand either. A long time ago, I was in Burma. My friends and I were working for the local government. They were trying to buy the loyalty of tribal leaders by bribing them with precious stones. But their caravans were being raided in a forest north of Rangoon by a bandit. So we went looking for the stones. But in 6 months, we never met anyone who traded with him. One day, I saw a child playing with a ruby the size of a tangerine. The bandit had been throwing them away.
So why steal them?
Well, because he thought it was good sport, because some men aren't looking for anything logical, like money. They can't be bought, bullied, reasoned, or negotiated with. Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Hi. You know, I don't want there to be any hard feelings between us, Harvey. When you and, Rachel were being abducted, I was sitting in Gordon's cage. Now, I didn't rig those charges.
Your man. Your plan.
Do I really look like a guy with a plan? You know what I am? I'm a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I caught it. You know, I just do things. The mob has plans. The cops have plans. Gordon's got plans. You know, they're schemers. Schemers trying to control their little worlds. I'm not a schemer. I try to show the schemers how pathetic their attempts to control things really are. So, when I say, come here, when I say that you and your girlfriend was nothing personal, you know that I'm telling the truth.
I'm gonna need your weapon.
What?
Why? Because my wife's in the hospital. Yeah, that would be why.
It's the schemers that put you where you are. You were a schemer, you had plans, and look where that got you.
someone not to take matters into their own hands.
I just did what I do best. I took your little plan and I turned it on itself. Look what I did to this city with a few drums of gas and a couple of bullets. You know what I noticed? Nobody panics when things go according to plan. Even if the plan is horrifying. If tomorrow I tell the press that like a gangbanger will get shot, or a truckload of soldiers will be blowing up, nobody panics. Because it's all part of the plan. But when I say that one little old mare will die, well, then everyone loses their minds. Introduce a little anarchy. Upset the established order, and everything becomes chaos. I'm an agent of chaos. Oh, and you know the thing about chaos? It's fear. You live. You die. Now we're talking.
Story is up.
Hey everyone, have you been looking for something to help you when you feel extra fidgety? How about when you have a sensory overload? Well, I'm here to introduce you to the Oh No Fidget Roller. It helps me regulate and also feel at ease. The Oh No Roller comes in 5 different materials, including plastic, aluminum, steel, titanium, and silicone. You can use our code DSP10 to get 10% off your order when you visit onoroller.com and get your roll on. We're back again.
Hey, we're back and we're live. Just like my hairline. It's back. It's way back. You know, it's here. Mm-hmm.
It sure is. All right. So before we get into the Dark Knight, like I said before, we have our guest, Kate Edelstein. Kate, could you let us know, like, what has been how did you get started in the mental health field? Let's start there.
Yeah, I was one of those people I knew I was gonna be a therapist like pretty young, like 13. I was like, I want to be a therapist. There was a period where I wanted to be a mortician, about 12, and then I realized I actually am really bad with like makeup. So I thought maybe the bits of that I actually like were making people feel better in difficult times. So
Okay.
that led me towards realizing that maybe a therapist was a little more likely for me. Um, but grew up in environment too with, mom very unwell mental health wise. Substance abuse issues in the
Okay.
house. So just kind of grew up in an area that was very stressful. A lot of mental health conditions within the household. So, kind of classic background, I think, for a lot of us that go into this field. But I fell in love with psychology. I knew I wanted to help people. What led me to what I'm kind of doing today, I always knew I was going to do mental health and therapy, but when I was uh, moved to San Francisco, I lost housing at some point. I always grew up kind of housing insecure, but I was homeless for a period up in San Francisco, first year of college. So that led me towards specifically wanting to work more in initially like homeless services, but particularly working with people who just sort of historically fallen through the cracks. So I started as a case manager working in homeless services in San Francisco after getting my bachelor's degree. Realized I was kind of, hitting my head on the same wall over and over again working in case management. So I was like, time to take that step to be a therapist, like I already wanted to. So moved down to SoCal, got to into Cal State Long Beach, got my master's degree, kind of focused on trauma there, and done a little private practice since then. I like having some private practice clients, but I've been working at a treatment center the last couple of years. So it's been my main thing. So now I'm a clinical director for a IOP program that runs virtually with a mixture of substance and mental health as the background for it.
What's ILP stand for people that aren't therapists?
Intensive outpatient. So yeah, we offer like groups specifically related to we do a blend here. What I like about our evening program is there's a harm reduction background to it. I'm able to influence a little bit of harm reduction. That was my background before was harm reduction. So we do offer support for folks who are more leaning in towards the abstinence only 12-step model, but also support for people who are looking more towards harm reduction as well.
For those of us who are new to the game, because not everyone has substance issues or maybe family.
That is true.
What in the hell is harm reduction? And give us an example of what that looks like, maybe to like a client that you work with.
So I can, and I'll just even give like an example of harm reduction outside of substance. So when we talk about harm reduction in substance use, it's this idea a lot of times that people aren't always ready to stop and people don't always want to stop. And I think in the abstinence only model that we live in, and that's, very, very push the AA model, there's this idea that if you do not stop, then you're just going to die. And sometimes that is the case. But it gets pushed in this way that if you're not ready to stop and you're not going to stop, then we're not going to help you. You're not going to get services. You're not going to get to talk to a therapist. Or there's plenty of therapists who refuse to see people who are actively using unless they go to AA. So I think what that does is unfortunately it creates like these people who fall through the cracks who have no support. They have nothing to lean on, and they're more likely to die that way. So, harm reduction example that I'll give like substance wise is needle exchanges, right? The idea that, okay, someone's going to have them use clean needles at least, have them at least not sharing needles with other people. That's a harm reduction tactic. Harm reduction tactic that we might use if we don't use substances, right? Let's say you're trying to reduce like your meat intake, right? Red meat intake. Having too much red meat, not super healthy, but not everybody's going to stop eating red meat completely. So if you have like meatless Mondays, that's a harm reduction tactic. You're saying, I'm still going to engage in these activities that maybe aren't that healthy for me, but I'm going to do it a little bit better. I'm going to do something because something's always better than nothing. That's the harm reduction goal, is something's always going to be better than nothing. So when I'm working with someone as far as harm reduction goes, right, if I have somebody who, let's say, is a binge drinker and they're realizing binge drinking is causing harm in their relationships, causing harm to their body, but they don't want to stop drinking completely. I could say, too bad, you got to stop, which, that works great. Or we could have those conversations of how do we shift your relationship to alcohol? How do we put up parameters? How do we create areas for you that this is going to be less problematic in your life? Are there support groups? Are there people that you can lean on? And a lot of times, people will find they do therapy, they meet other people going through what they're going through, they do these workbooks, and they do reduce their consumption. Not everybody. There are people I think that absolutely benefit from these 12-step models, and that's a big part of why our programs run. And also, I think there are people who benefit from harm reduction. So we're able to offer a mixture of both here.
Okay, thank you.
So you specialize in trauma, relationships, anxiety, and also drug use. How did you lean into those areas the most in your practice?
Yeah, I'll say with substance, I was always trying to get away from it. It was actually something I never really wanted to do. It was so close to home growing up, with
So you tried to get away from it and then you just leaned right into the shit?
Somehow I ended up being, I know, now I'm like, directing a program with it. It basically, I never wanted to get involved with it because like in my own family stuff, I was like, I don't want to deal with this stuff. But working in homelessness and working with trauma, it all blends together. You don't get to work with homelessness and not deal with substances. And I would argue too, substance abuse, underneath that all, that is trauma, right? A lot of substance use, it stems from trauma. If you look at the root, you look at folks who are abusing substances, you're going to find trauma in their past. So I don't really think you can have one without the other. Once you really start getting deeper into it. Now, how I ended up working at a facility, honestly, like initially why I took this job was I'm just really clumsy and I was not getting PTO from private practice. I had like 3 injuries in a year. I wasn't making any money and I was like, I need to get a full-time job. I'm an associate. I got to figure something out. So took a full-time job at the substance facility and I was like, I'll just stay for a couple months, like, go to a couple doctors, get myself patched up, be good. But I enjoyed the company. I've been there for 3 years now. Kind of just worked my way up. And again, trauma and substance just feed into each other. And despite the fact that it wasn't a direction I ever really wanted to go in, it is something that I'm passionate about and I feel like I know a lot about and I can relate a lot to.
I'm gonna ask a question. You don't have to answer it.
Mhm.
In the way the world is, America, specifically America's going, we are now arresting and imprisoning a lot of folks that are homeless or unhoused. And do you see that affecting the populations that you work with, or is that a fear that people are talking about? How are people handling that? We also know that prisons now are one of the biggest healthcare and mental health providers in America now because of this. It's been for a while now. It's just even more prevalent now. Have folks talked about that? What's going on through y'all minds? If you don't want to talk about it, you don't want to talk about it.
Oh
It's up
no,
to
I'm
you.
happy to talk about this. Yeah, this is a huge concern I have. Absolutely. We've fully criminalized homelessness. It's a huge problem and substance use, which is unfortunate that I think, we criminalize people's coping skills essentially and their ways of surviving in difficult circumstances. Um, I, as far as like clients, talking like a lot of times, like the clients that we work with, they're so focused on what is in front of them and just surviving day to day that the larger political landscape isn't something that they're always very focused on. But I would say for us that work at these facilities, this is definitely something that we think about when these laws and these changes come up. And we do see an effect from it. Um, I think, in terms too of like we're cutting more benefits, we're cutting more medical options for people, right? Food stamps have that risk of being cut, Medicare has having cuts. This puts more people at risk because I think that's something that a lot of people unfortunately don't seem to understand is there's this mentality that if we just punish and criminalize people who utilize substances and people who are homeless, then they'll just stop. They'll just stop being homeless and they'll just stop using. But we get people, and I see this all the time where I work. We get people coming in who have lost everything. They have lost loved ones from overdosing. They have lost their whole family who will never talk to them. We have people who are dying from cirrhosis who still cannot stop themselves from drinking. They know the consequences. They know what they're doing could kill them, but they can't stop. So creating all of these parameters that make existence more difficult when you are using substances or you are living on the streets, that doesn't stop people. If anything, sometimes it just makes it worse. It makes you need to escape reality even more than you did before. So I think all of these uh, I would say poorly intentioned, though they're framed as positively intentioned ideas of criminalizing homelessness and criminalizing substance abuse worsens the issue. And I feel like you can easily just look at the numbers here. People aren't stopping using because of this. You still have people who are ODing every single day. They just have less support and help now.
Okay. Thank you.
We've been in practice for probably over 6 years now. What's one lesson from early in your career you wish you could just remind the younger Kate of now?
Ooh. Let me think about that for a second. Yeah, I mean, one thing was like when you first start, like as an intern and associate, I mean, you're not making shit. And I'm not rolling in it right now, I'm gonna be real, but there is that fear. I remember that fear graduating my with my master's. And I had like gotten into such bad debt, just
Max.
trying to survive my master's program. So I don't have family money. That is not where I come from. I grew up in a trailer park. We don't have shit offered up here. So like I struggled. And there was just that fear consistently because it feels like the goalposts get moved a lot in this field, right? It's like, okay, I gotta go finish my master's degree. Okay, now I gotta get my associate number. Okay, now I have to finish my associate hours. Okay, now that I'm licensed, they want people to be licensed for 2 years before they'll pay me this. And you're just kind of always seeing this goalpost get moved. Um, but once you get into the flow of it, it does get better. And that's something I have a lot of friends right now who, are just finished taking their test, they're about to take their test. And I think there's that fear sometimes we get right before taking that licensing exam of like, what if this doesn't get better? And like, it usually does. Can't promise it will, but that is something, looking back, I had a moment legitimately when I graduated with my master's degree that I was like, I ruined my life. I was moving up towards being a program director for um, the case management, organization I was working for. And I graduated and I was in so much debt. I did not have a job lined up. I had developed depression and eczema from the stress of graduate school.
Jesus,
And I was like,
eczema?
yeah, like adult eczema. You could just develop it as an adult. I had no idea at the time, so obviously did not go into medical anything. So, but like I was stressed out, and I was like, this was not worth it. Like I really felt for myself. So I'm grateful to look back and to tell myself, and for anyone who's maybe kind of having a similar experience, like coming out of school or starting their hours and wondering, is this worth it? It became worth it for me. I'll say it's worth it now. It took some time, but I'm glad I put in the effort. So
If you don't mind me asking, my first job was $37K with a master's coming out. What was your first job coming out of school?
my first job, before I got my number, I was doing career counseling briefly at a private university where I was like,
Same.
I think it was like 40,000 ish. And then I went in and then I started working for Cerebral. Actually, I got hired by Cerebral. That was my first like real job once I got my associate number. And initially they paid okay, but then I mean, I think you guys know the background for Cerebral probably. There was like a whole scandalous thing kind of going on with that. I ended up leaving Cerebral. I wasn't stoked with some of the things, the way they were running the business. There was a thing too where I think they built up too quickly and they took away everyone's salaries. They took away everybody's medical care very rapidly. It was a very big dramatic thing that happened. So it was okay pay, but it wasn't my at my ethical standards for this field. So I left and I think I'm okay bad mouthing them. I don't remember an NDA, but yeah, I was not impressed by them. So I left and I went into private practice and made nothing. So, but
You made nothing and then you fell down a lot. Probably because of substance abuse issues, but I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to judge you, honey. It's
yeah,
okay.
absolutely. No, that must have been it. Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm a clumsy gal. So, and also I get sick really easily. So no, but now I work a salary gig. That's exactly what I need. I am some people, private practice is their dream. It's not me.
Yep. You need insurance. Mama needs insurance.
Oh, I do. I need insurance and paid time off.
Quick thing. I joked about the eczema thing. I have a lot of clients that are neurodivergent, high stress. They can develop eczema. They can have these outbreaks of like these rashes. I've seen gastrointestinal issues come up, like horrific issues that come up. Cirrhosis? No, not cirrhosis. Psoriasis. Like, man, the shit that you see coming up on people's skin, seeing people's eyes just swell up and just get like what the fuck? And they got to get on all these antihistamines and they don't know what's going on and autoimmune diseases. Like, stress can cause some wild shit to happen on the body. So I said that as a joke, but like, that's a valid thing, the eczema that happens.
Yeah, I was blown away when I found out that can happen. I was like, wow, I got adult onset eczema and specifically from grad school. And I told you, man, I've been homeless. I've been through it. I have been through some stressful encounters in my life, but it was graduate school that finally got me. So
Ain't that a bitch? I'm living an American dream, people.
pulled myself up by my bootstraps and it hurts.
Go ahead, Spence.
So you offer online therapy and also limited in-person EMDR. How do you balance accessibility and depth in that therapeutic process?
Yeah, so accessibility wise, and interestingly, I mean, I know I'm joking, like I'm not built for private practice, but a big issue actually I ran into, and part of why I do private practice on the side and not as my main gig, is so I can offer sliding scale. That was my biggest downfall when I was doing private practice was I am a sucker for a sob story, and I mostly wanted to work with people who don't have access easily to things. So I was taking these like $20, $30 clients, and that was why I wasn't making money. It wasn't that I didn't have clients, it's that the clients I would take, I was like, $15, that's totally fine. Like, I got you.
Damn.
And you unfortunately can't pay rent like that. So like what is nice for me now, like I'm paneled with some insurances and I'm, able to do that obviously. But as far as like, since I do offer therapy on the side now and it's not my main job, I can have those conversations and I can choose to take people on. Like I have had moments, where people will complete our program and they're like not done with EMDR or they're not done with something and like I'll just like offer pro bono for a month so they can, complete. So I'm very grateful that I'm in a position, and that's part of what's nice about me being in the seller position is I'm able to help people who generally might not have access because I am able to do that. And when I tried to do that before, I run into, I cannot afford food and I'm eating ramen every day like I'm 18 again. So it's very nice to be able to do this as a side gig. So, but I think that's my biggest place where I try to think of accessibility is like really cost. I mean, cost is one of the biggest barriers of therapy for a lot of people. So, yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things I'm able to do now with my position that I'm in is just offer lower cost services to people.
Okay, you okay? You doing okay, Kay? I feel like you tired. You tired. You gotta be tired.
I'm tired every day. Yeah, I know I'm getting calls on the side and things all day. No, I'm tired all the time, but I'm used to it. It's good. I'm
How
good.
how do you
Living the
get
dream,
time
right?
to run the meme page? How the fuck do you get time to do that shit?
But it's been less recently, but meme page, I mean that started up when I was still in graduate school. I started
Okay.
that in 2020, like mid-pandemic. So like pandemic was kicking up, and that was like the first thing I did. I was at the very end of my graduate program, and I was like, I don't know if I'm what I'm doing, and I don't know if I'm doing things right, and I have no people to tell me if I'm doing things right. So like the meme page just kind of started off as this like I'm going to make jokes about all of the mistakes I feel like I'm making and all of the self-doubt I have in this field, and see if other people relate to it. And people did, so that was, lucky. Also terrible in some ways because I get people who've been therapists for like 30 years and they'd be like, "Yeah, I feel this too." And I'm like, "I hate that you still feel that. That doesn't bode well for me in 30 years." But it's good to know that we all have this connection here. So now self-doubt's a little bit less, but it still creeps up. Like I still have it. So that's kind of where the meme page still exists for me is like if I have a moment where I'm like just too human, it almost feels like I had a moment the other day, I'm probably gonna put a meme about this later, of just like I had a client who is, in private practice, just very tearfully telling me about a really awful trauma. And her cat is just doing zoomies around the room. And I am like hyper focusing, trying to stare at her, but this cat is so fucking cute. And I just want to focus on the cat so bad. And you get those little blips from them, you're like, oh, I kind of suck. Or like, oh, I'm not a good therapist because of this. And those are what I make all of my memes out of, are those like self-doubt moments of like, am I not good enough? Because, there's this perfect idea I think we have as therapists sometimes, or like that people have therapists of how they're supposed to be. So when we become therapists, we almost want to be that person, that perfect therapist. And none of us are that because we're all people. So like I use this meme page when I need to like remind myself of my humanness within this field.
Holy shit, I love that. It's a fantastic answer.
Fantastic. Since you do your meme page is pretty popular, how do you find just the balance between your boundaries, say with your professional and then also just your personal self outside of that?
Yeah, so I've had to be careful, obviously, as the page kind of took off. I think my initial memes were like a little more risque than some of the ones that I probably do now, because I just had friends looking at it.
Mm.
So, that's something you have to be mindful of is like something that in my head is just like a clear, obvious joke. That is not deeper than anything. I really have to look at that because you have people from like all over the world now at times like looking at these memes. Because they get shared on my page, but they get shared on other pages. Like I'll just see my memes like out in the wild sometimes, just like random pages. And I do try to think of impact and how that's going to affect people. So that's something I have to be mindful of like, my personal experiences, my personal stories might not gel with everybody. It might not be their experiences. So one of the things I do now is before I make a meme, and this is terrible, but the funnier I think the meme is, the more I need to show it to several people before I post it. Because I'm like, let me make sure that like this is like actually funny and I'm not like coming from like a bad angle that I'm like unaware of here. Um 'Cause most of it comes from self-deprecation, but like people don't know that. They just see this meme and they're like, are you making fun of me? Are you making fun of people like me? And I'm like, no, I'm making fun of me, but
Yes.
like, you don't know me, so there's no way to know that. So I try to, be mindful and like checking in with other people, seeing if what I'm posting is reasonable. Boundary wise to my personal stuff, I don't bring my personal self onto my page too often. There's times that I do. For like larger scale, issues like I posted some stuff, like I got like a tiny bit of flack, but I didn't care. Like when the No Kings protests were happening, I posted some stuff about like how to keep yourself safe emotionally, like at a protest. So
Yeah.
I posted like a couple like pro Palestine, like pro Black Lives Matters things that they come up. So occasionally like I put some things that I do feel passionate about on there, which you do get the like go back to memes or like what are you talking about or you don't know. But for the most part, when I've done that, it's been pretty well received because realistically, I think most people who follow therapist meme pages, for the most part, tend to be people who are a little bit more aligned with the way that I look at the world. So I don't have to be too careful, I think, with how I share things. But once in a while, Deborah from Cincinnati has some shit to say to me about, if I should be a therapist or not. But besides that, it's mostly been okay.
It's always white women, bro. I posted something. They're like, "What does this have to do with autism?" I'm like, "This ain't got nothing to do with autism. I don't think little kids should be dying in Palestine. I just don't. There's nothing to do with it, and I don't think it needs to." What about being tired though? Like he was talking about how you balance things. So I assume you get burned out throughout life, and so maybe the page you get burned out. Maybe like how do you balance the burnout shit?
I do, and like, I mean, I'd say right now, and I'll be super real. Like, if you look at my page, I haven't posted a meme in like over 2 weeks or something right now. Like, I used to do it every day when I was still like doing private practice. Now it's probably like a couple times a month I post.
Okay.
So I've reduced it because like I do get the burnout sometimes, and there's like, and I think like a lot of us right now, which is everything going on in society, in this country, outside of this country. My ability to be funny feels like sometimes it gets reduced. Like that burnout has hit moments where I'm like I cannot think of a silly meme right now about, you know, private practice when like I am just taking in all this information from the world. I'm burned out from my job. I'm burned out from the media. I'm burned out from societal collapse, basically. So it does hit me days where I don't always have the will. Um, but so it's not as big of a priority as it used to be. Like the meme page, it's there. It's sort of shifted back. When I first started doing it, it was for me. This meme page was solely for me. It was a way for me to like make jokes about my experiences and see if other people related so I could feel better about the job that I'm doing. And then it got bigger and it turned into this thing of I need to understand this algorithm and I need to understand how to make a bigger impact and I need to see how it can make some monetization. And it was that for a bit. And then as I started to get more busy, it's sort of like gone back in this like bell curve where I'm back on the other side here where it's just for me again. I post when I feel like it. I post what I like to post. I post what I think is important, what I think is funny. Again, I still have more mindfulness than I did when I first started because I am aware that I have a larger audience than when I first started. But that's a big piece of how I deal with that burnout is like I'm not trying to chase the algorithm gods anymore. Like I have let them be free. I just post what I feel like it and I post what I feel like.
There you go. Okay.
So outside outside of those, memes, therapy, what's something you do to reset, refresh, or just feel like yourself again?
Mosh pits. 100%. Yeah, I go to punk shows. I'm like
Mosh
100%.
pits. I thought you said wash pits.
Wash pits. Yeah, no, dude, I gotta get rid of that sweat from the stress of the day. So
Yeah.
no, I create the sweat by going into mosh pits. Yeah,
Beat the
I
shit
I,
out
go-
of
I love
everyone.
punk shows. Love getting that aggression out. That is my best way. So I love going to shows. Yeah, I'm a big punk rock fan. So that is my go-to when I'm feeling too burned out and I need to get the aggression out. I just run into a pit and see if someone will punch me in the face.
Nice.
Okay, we need to talk after this. I'm worried about you. I'm so worried about you, girly. So this mosh pit shit, like this is everyone talking. They don't actually be like fighting and punching people in the face, or do they? I feel like they just be pushing. They don't be like punching each other, do they?
It depends on the pit you go into. I actually, real talk, I will watch first because, like I said, I'm clumsy. I have sprained my ankle at least 3 times in mosh pits. Like I go down easy. I have unstable ankles, so like, I get injured pretty regularly. But I do have a policy, and I do firmly believe this: if you don't have a bruise after the mosh pit, it wasn't a good mosh pit. So like, you need to get bumped around a little bit for it to be fun. But yeah, depending on the show you go to, and like this is a whole other thing that's unfortunate, but in the punk scene, going a little into the depths here,
Go ahead.
some shows, right, you get people who are pretty far across. So you get some very, very far left, like we got our fucking, Antifa shows that are like a lot of people like on the far left here. And then there's like the neo-Nazi punks, and they are out there. And I live like near Huntington Beach, Anaheim. Like there's neo-Nazi punks out here. It's like occasionally you go to a show and the neo-Nazis try to take over. And those are the scary pits. I went to a show at the Doll Hut a couple of years ago, which I stopped going to because it was very I've heard it's not like this anymore, by the way. Shout out to the Doll Hut for the new owners, but the old owners let it get taken over by Nazis. Because once you get one Nazi punk at a show and they're allowed to be there, they fucking take over like cockroaches. So that's how it kind of turned into. But I went to a show there before I knew this is what it was going to be like. And there was two mosh pits. This was out on the asphalt. Like this was like in the parking lot. So one mosh pit that was all of just like the punks. And then there was another mosh pit that was the Nazi punks. And it started rolling towards each other. And it just turned into a massive fist fight. So I say that to say, like, mosh pits are usually pretty fun. They're usually pretty chill, but depending on like some of the more underground shows you go to, they can get scary. Like, you can get people who are just in there trying to fight, and usually it self-regulates. Like, if you get a guy who's in there just punching people in the face, people will pull that guy out. But I will watch one round before I go in because if it is like fists start flying, I want to act hard, but I'm a baby. I'll go down in one hit. I'm good. I'll stay out.
How
I'll be the wall.
how tall are you?
5'4".
Yeah, it's not like you can see in the mosh pit. So you got like a camera phone like up top. Like how are you watching what's going on in the pit?
Actually, you go up to the wall, like you're the people kind of bumping people in. I'll see,
Okay.
what it's looking like in there, if fists are coming up or not. So, if it's like cohesive and everyone's having fun and just kind of bouncing around, I'll jump in. But yeah, I get occasionally you get just some dudes who are just like posturing at each other and they just want to cause a ruckus. And I'm like, you all do you. You
There
can
you
beat the
go.
shit out of each other. I'm going to stay back here.
So now you heard it here. White, Jewish, and friends with Nazis. So that's a wild turn of events in this podcast. Okay.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's exactly how I would describe myself, word for word. Did you say you didn't want me to get canceled at the beginning of this? I feel like I remember that.
So this was all sarcasm for the folks, my very neurodivergent crowd that we're talking to. All sarcasm. Is that the only thing that you use for self-regulation and coping, like feel goods?
No, I mean, like, that would be wild if that was the only thing. Yeah, I love baking too. That's a little more calmer of an activity I do. I'm vegan, so like I bake vegan goods. That hopefully don't taste like shit because everything you buy at the store that's vegan tends to. So
Valid.
that is a big thing that I do. I like watching movies, as we're kind of talking about now. Like I'm a big nerd. I play D&D.
Okay.
So I have other things that I like to do. Big music fan, like I said, so I'll just veg out to music sometimes. But yeah, I have,
There you go.
a lot of different activities that I lean into. So I try to make time for them. I make sure that I have a good balance. I try to avoid that burnout to the best of my ability by making sure I'm, hitting all parts of myself and what I need. Like if I get angry, that's when I go to the mosh pits. If I um get anxiety, that's when I bake. If I'm feeling sad, that's when I listen to music. So I figure out kind of what I'm needing based on what I'm experiencing most of the time.
Cool.
All right, with that, I think we can get into the movie. So this is The Dark Knight, sequel to Batman Begins. Christopher Nolan at his best. We have Heath Ledger, we got Christian Bale, we got a whole great cast of movies. Obviously, if you haven't seen this movie, I don't know what you're doing with your life, really. To be honest with you, I mean, if you're listening to this show, you've probably seen the movie.
Had to.
But in the first scene that we have, this is about Harvey Dent. It was after a shooting, and Gordon, he actually was killed. He faked his death. He was killed at a public funeral of the commissioner who died by the Joker, and he sets out to get some revenge. Actually, this was and then he finds out that Rachel was kidnapped. And so he holds this guy hostage who was also a really big actor. I forgot his name, but he's a really big actor, and he's been in things like the Suicide Squad, the new one with James Gunn, and a few other great films. But he's pretty much getting interrogated by Harvey, and he has this coin. The coin is actually a trick coin. It's heads, it's both heads. And so when he first shoots, I think when he flips the coin and he flips it, he does that and he's like, all right, heads, tails, I'm gonna kill you if it's heads or tails, whatever the fuck.
Mhm.
He fucks up the first time, but I think that's him trying not to go full Two-Face, right? I think that's his inner self just telling him, okay, I want to kill this guy because I want to threaten him, but at the same time, I also want to make sure I know where Rachel is and what's going on. But for this part, and then Batman comes in, saves the guy, and Harvey um, Harvey wants the Batman not to reveal himself because he is a symbol to the people and to justice and to all the good. But then on the flip side, Batman thinks that Harvey is actually the symbol and a face to the good and all the things that Gotham could be. So, Kate, what made you want to pick this scene in particular? And is this your favorite Batman movie?
It's the best one.
Mm,
I think yeah, I mean it probably is. So love Mask of the Phantasm. Like I love, the animated series,
mm.
all those films, everything related to it too. But this is the best Batman film. I mean, it just is.
There you go.
Um, we'll say as a quick aside too, with Thomas Schiff, I think is the character here. David Desmalchin. I think that was the actor's name you're talking
Yeah, I
about.
just Googled
Yeah.
it. That's his name. He's also the Gemini killer in Dexter, in the new Dexter
Mm.
movie or show. Go ahead.
Yeah, so no, I just want to break because kind of what we are talking about earlier, actually. His background, he was homeless and a heroin addict for several years, and this was his first film. I believe
Stop.
I need to double check on this, but I believe this actually pulled him out of homelessness. Like he was in and out of homelessness before this movie. So kind of going back with addiction and homelessness as a theme here. Interesting tidbit about this guy.
There you go.
So this scene in particular, so I you have this sort of contrast that's going on between Batman and Harvey, right? You kind of see their parallels almost, where the scene kind of goes back and forth where Batman is interrogating um is it Maroni? I'm trying to remember who he's interrogating there, but yeah, so he's interrogating Mob
Yes.
Boss here, and then we have Harvey doing his interrogation. And you get the elements of Two-Face already coming out, right? You start seeing, okay, this is the direction this guy's going. He's on the edge. And I think there's also too this aspect of like he has that trick coin, it changes after he gets burned. You've got metaphorical, it burns two-piece there. But at the moment, right, you're supposed to be like, he was never gonna kill that guy because it was a double-sided coin.
Mhm.
But realistically here, a thing that just stuck out to me was I'm like, you're still using fear to terrorize this person. It is absolutely still like an evil act there in that sense. I
Mhm.
think that the components of Two-Face were already there. And I bring it up, and the reason why I thought it was interesting was that Batman's like story is like full PTSD story. And we have this person who just misplaced PTSD and grief. And you get that with Two-Face too. And there is this component of he goes through this horrendous trauma, starts acting insane after, and the sort of like legal sort of tense in terms here. Uh, but before that, he was already sort of like this, right? Trauma doesn't always transform us into people who cause harm. Uh, Harvey Dent was already very rigid, was already very heavy on law and order in the way that he thought was right. And you have these characters, it's kind of overarching. I would say this is actually true for Joker too. You have Joker, you have Batman, and you have Harvey Dent. All three of these characters impose their will on the public. They decide what is right and wrong, they decide what justice is, and they decide how that's going to be inflicted upon others. And you see that a little bit with how Harvey is interacting, I think, in this scene, is that he already has the components of Two-Face. He's already somebody who uses fear against others. He is already somebody who thinks that he knows the right way, and he's already inflicting that upon somebody. Um, I think, you know, again, too, the only difference between Two-Face and Batman, really, that you have, at least in this film, because it's a lot more complicated in the comics, is Batman stops at killing people. That's the only really line that's a difference there. But their MOs are so similar. They act so similarly.
I would say though, with Two-Face and with Harvey, is that with him, I mean, he was already called Two-Face by people beforehand because at one point he's this nice guy, and then at another point he's off the hinges, and and the thing is that he's at a desperate point because Joker, somebody who is just
Terrorist.
uncalculated, who's calculated, but he's also just a wild person. You don't know what he's going to do. Um, he's somebody who also took his fiance, person he loves, and so for him, he's going to do whatever. And then once she dies by the Joker, then all cards are off the table at that point because he no longer has people in his life that he loves. And the thing about Batman is that he, in a way, even though he isn't over the trauma of what happened to his parents, at the same time he has them in the back of his head every day, and he has Alfred too to help him kind of veer him in the right direction, while Harvey Dent doesn't seem like he has people in his life that he can turn towards and actually help with his advice, or maybe he wouldn't even listen to that advice. But I think that they're, even though they do have similarities, I also think that they go on a different path when it comes to what happens. And also the fact that his face is all fucked up, and we talked about in the pre-production, his face is fucked up, but also, like, you imagine how much pain he's in and how crazy, like,
Psychotic.
having a toothache can make you go fucking crazy. Having your whole side of your body burned, I think that's also something that can also play an effect on there, because he has so much pain that's going on that he's not in his right mind anymore. He is a person who is fully gone off the deep end.
Is he labeled that, Spence and Kate, like later in the comics, like Two-Face being? I don't know the whole origin story. Homeboy obviously was like, right, this DA. What was his title again?
He was a district
attorney. Yeah.
And then the tragedy happens, and that's when he becomes like a bad guy. Is he a bad guy in the comics? I don't remember.
Yes.
Okay.
He's most definitely a villain. And there's a few different versions of it. This version's different than the other ones, but he was doing a case once, and somebody threw acid on his face, and then his whole side gets burned off, and then then he just goes off the deep end, goes crazy, and then he's now just like a crazy guy. And he also blames Batman for not stopping the person as well in the other comics. So similarity, but it's a little bit more realistic, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think this movie is overarchingly like a more kind of like realistic portrayal of how these characters could be. Obviously still in the realms of a fantasy movie about like a flying bat creature that stops violence in the streets, but within that context, like, it has more of a realistic kind of like connotation to it. I mean, yeah, even the character of Rachel does not exist in the comics that I'm ever aware of.
Okay.
This is totally made up here, and like kind of a little bit off track a little bit here, but like one of the things that is interesting about it, and this is true for Harvey and for Batman, is that like Rachel is sort of this humanizing force for both of them. I think the difference from this Batman versus comics Batman and Batman in other movies is that he had this like love and support growing up from Rachel, which did not exist in anything else. So this is like the only Batman that I can think of that like actually has a desire to stop being Batman, and like has a willingness to stop being Batman, and it is over Rachel specifically. So yeah, him and Harvey both have a thing for. She also seems to have a thing for obsessive people that are more married to their job of justice than anything else. But that is also her whole characterization. So
I love an unhealthy man. I'm not gay. So interesting thing. So let's say they're both part of the same coin. You see the pun in there.
Love it.
Let's say this Batman would be maybe the guy. They both have influence and power and like money though, so it doesn't fully fit like this. But Batman's maybe what you can channel your stuff into of justice and helping people doing certain things with your trauma. And then with his traumas, right? He goes off the deep end in a different way. Both deep ends, just different ways. I guess I was thinking about the homelessness stuff, and we're talking about substance abuse and homeless. So I'm like, how am I going to tie this in? I was like, I feel like there's something there too. We're going to save it for the third scene, but we're all just like a couple of bad days or a couple of bad things, horrific things away from being not healthy individuals. Suicidal, homicidal, addiction, whatever it is. Thinking crazy thoughts. And I'm thinking, I see this guy, he goes down this rabbit hole. His face is mutilated, like Spence says. Now you got all types of body stuff, trauma. You got to do the medical trauma. Like there's so much that goes into it. I could see where this could lead someone to a more likelihood of being homeless, more likelihood of having everything taken from you. And so what you were saying earlier, Kate, is these people have lost everything. But we treat them now, even more so now, because there's certain folks that are running country, like straight up dog shit. And you're worthless, you're terrible. We're going in, we're beating the shit out of you, we're tearing everything down. There you got it's not like these people want to be homeless. It's not like either one of these guys want to be fucked up. Two-Face, Harvey Dent, and Batman. They don't want to have these issues, but these things happen. Life is fucked up. Many of my clients, Kate, I'm sure you hear this all the time. I'm tired. I don't want to continue to live like this. Nas, I don't know if I can continue living like this. When will everything ever be okay? Will I ever not be suicidal? Will I ever not have relapses? Oh my God, the relapses and the pain that causes my clients is fucking horrible. It's dangerous and scary, whether it be drugs, suicidality, cutting, whatever, self-harm. So that's what I was thinking about this. It's like you just never know which way the mind of the person's going to go.
Absolutely.
No. Sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're not. I was just thinking of that, Kate, and then how it affects like your clients that you're dealing with as a clinical director of substance abuse. I don't think that none of the people wanted that shit. They don't want to be on the streets and not have housing. They don't want to be addicted to stuff.
No, absolutely not. And most of my clients, they hate drugs. Some of them love them. Sometimes we go into it because we love that feeling. That's absolutely the case. But specifically like fentanyl, I talk to fentanyl addicts like all the time. It's a big part of my job. And I've never talked to someone who's like, I love fentanyl. Fentanyl is great. Like most of them hate it. They hate being addicted to it. They hate how it feels, but they can't stop. Even, tying that into like the Batman story here, what I think is interesting is that if you look at, addiction in the terms of like an obsession, something that we use to escape from our pain and from our suffering, like Batman has sort of those elements. Like there is almost this addictive quality to what he does. He cannot stop himself. He feeds into it. And what is different from Batman than a lot of other people who deal with substance abuse is that he is absolutely loaded. He has so much money. There's a line in the beginning of this movie that I thought was actually like kind of funny when I was watching it. But for the wrong reasons. There's a part in the very beginning with I think he has Scarecrow's briefly there, and he ties up Scarecrow and he ties up this guy who's pretending to be Batman, and the guy's like tied up the fake Batman, and he's like, what gives you the right? Like, why can you go do this and we can't? And Batman's like, because I'm not wearing hockey pads. And like, it's a funny line, but also like what I took from that is he's like, because I'm rich, because I have the money for a really nice car and really nice armor. So
and
like,
also he was trained by Ra's al Ghul, so that also kind of helps a little bit,
Was he trained in like all that in the comics? I'm not, I'm not a comic nerd. Was he had all that shit? What was the comics? He just was a suit? I don't know.
Yes.
He's a Ninja Turtle? Like how did he had fighting powers in the comics? I don't know. Fighting powers.
He was trained by like the League of Shadows, like this pretty much ninja organization. They're like all assassins. And yeah, he was trained by them, the top guy to ever do it. Ra's al Ghul.
And that's also comic accurate too?
Yeah. I mean, well, yeah. I don't know if he does it in the Robert Pattinson one. I don't know if he's trained by him in that one. They haven't really gotten into that yet. But yeah, he in all the other like forms, even in the video games, yeah, he's trained by Ra's al Ghul.
Never knew.
Yeah, it's a big component of his story of him and Talia, and it's
And
very back
how
and forth with it. But yeah, so he had opportunities available to him that other people do not. His wealth is a big piece of that. So yeah, Batman, his wealth, I think, is what stops him from going the other way, because he could just be, a two big guy in the street wearing hockey pads. But he had opportunities that people do not always get. So, and of course, too, they're going back with like addiction. There are people who squander away their wealth through
Yep.
addiction all the time. I have, again, working in homeless services, I've met people who were lawyers, doctors, um, you know, professors that have come through and have ended up in homelessness due to a mixture of mental health related issues and substance abuse related issues. So absolutely, and I think that's a scary thing that none of us even really like to think about too much is, kind of going back to what you're saying, we're all maybe like a bad day away. This could happen to anybody. That's something that I live in fear of too. As I mentioned earlier, I've been homeless before.
Yep.
I have experienced homelessness. And I'm in a pretty good situation right now, but anytime like my bank account starts to dip or a debt starts getting a little out of unpaid, my brain starts going there so fast because I'm aware that I can go back at any time. Any of us can, and I think it's something we don't like to think about too much, but I think it's important to remember that too, though, to also build that human connection. We create a huge separation between people who are unhoused and ourselves a lot of times. When we walk by people on the streets, we create the separation that they are not like us. And all of these people have had families and homes at some point. Every single person you pass in the street had a connection at some point in their lives and had a home at some point in their lives. Um, any of us could end up there. It just takes the right circumstances.
Yep. Valid. I wanted to tie it in. Thank you. Get to that next scene.
Yeah, so for the next one, this is about mainly Alfred talking to Bruce, especially about how you can't. I think this was after the. This was after. I think this was after the shooting of Gordon, if I remember correctly, and how Batman's just trying to figure out a way to beat Joker and how to maybe even just try to get in a sense to him, and like how he kind of gets to other villains in this universe. But Alfred is pretty much telling him you can't reason with somebody like this, and they don't have a weakness because they're not attached to anything. They're just doing it for the fun of it, essentially. And that's what Joker's doing. He's pretty much doing this because he just loves to cause chaos, and he loves to be that person that just is somebody who you can't think of like what he's going to do next. And then Alfred talks about his time in Burma and how they were trying to catch this thief, this diamond thief, and the thief itself didn't even keep the diamond. He just gave it to somebody. And another part of this is that Bruce actually asked, like, hey, how did you even find him? And of course, Alfred was just like, we burned the whole forest down until he just decided to quit. So it's a very interesting thing of like how far you will go in order to make sure that these people who are causing all this mayhem just, are done. And that could speak a lot of truths to some of the things that have happened recently or not. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just a podcast.
That was a very good parallel to some stuff, Spence. Yes.
Yeah. So with that, Kate, what about this scene really spoke to you? And in this scene, do you see yourself as like the Bruce who is just like, I can figure this out, or are you more of like the Alfred who's just like, I've been through this before. I know the people that are doing this, that are like, even though it's not exactly the same what Alfred was going through, he can find those similarities. And is this kind of how like you treat your therapy in a way where you're like, okay, you take your past experiences and then you also bring them into your therapy sessions?
Yeah, I think I like that question too, because like in some ways I can be a little bit of both, but I do want to lean more towards being Maple Bruce here.
Yeah.
Because like, this is a great scene. It's monumental. Everybody remembers this line. Like it has just fallen into pop culture for good reason. It's a great scene. With that being said, with it though, the issue that I do have with it, as I kind of brought up, so I was rewatching, I rewatched this movie the other day, and it never even really caught me. I was like listening to this story that he tells, and I was like, there's so many other reasons that could have happened. Like why that they didn't want like these white dudes from England making a deal with all of their like tribal-its. Like there was like a whole story that goes in there of like the only reason why they could have possibly robbed us, these white people coming into their village trying to mess with their communities, was because they just want to watch the world burn. And like there could have been other stuff going on there. And I just feel like with that story in particular, but even going back with Joker, I think it's kind of like a gross oversimplification. I think we do things for reasons, and they're not always great reasons, they're not always helpful reasons, but there's usually a reason for why we do what we do. Like even going with Joker and kind of talking about him having that like, which I know we'll kind of touch on the next scene a little bit more, but he has those kind of like classic like antisocial personality traits. Um, I will say that is a disorder I've worked with quite a bit actually in my work. I think there's a big overlap. Again, if we're looking at trauma as a concept, those cluster B personality disorders, right, that come from trauma, right? They're trauma based. So you do see a lot of that like APD narcissistic crossover sometimes in addiction. I think there's just a larger proportion. It's not the majority of people, obviously. Most people I work with do not have that disorder, but I will say compared to private practice, I have seen this disorder significantly more working in substance. And
Interesting.
when I work with people who have like full-on confirmed antisocial personality disorder, what I see a lot is that you have people who are driven by stimulation. They're desperately seeking stimulation. They're desperately seeking something to find enjoyment from. Most of the time when you ask clients, if we're doing like our safety plans or just checking in with them, or like what's the most important thing in your life, people will say other people. They'll mention family, they'll mention friends, they'll mention their dog, right? They'll mention, connections, essentially. With antisocial personality disorder, a lot of times you don't see that. And it's not, empathy and shame that is a driver. A lot of times it's just stimulation. And I see that constantly with people with this disorder. There's a constant boredom. And I think that leans into the addiction a lot of times is there's a constant boredom that's trying to be fed. So I look at Joker and I see, and I look at really anybody who potentially like could move towards violence who does have this disorder, people who do go that way. Again, not everybody. There's a crave for stimulation. I don't think Joker just wants to watch the world burn because of like just causing chaos. I think that it is stimulating for him to do this. I think it's stimulating for him to harm
It's
others,
fun.
and to create chaos for others. Yeah, it's his enjoyment. So he is driven by something. It's, and I feel like that line almost makes it seem like with Alfred sitting that we don't need to look deeper into this. And I kind of brought up a little bit too, right? We have sort of this like very like post 9/11 film, like credits to my housemate for pointing that out to me the other day, but very post 9/11 film of Law and Order. And there's this concept that's sort of throughout it. I mean, we even see it at the very end of the movie with like the mass surveillance of Gotham. That is a big part of how Joker gets caught. There's this idea that lying to the public and controlling the public, controlling everything is needed to stop the evil, is needed to stop bad. And I think sometimes with that, we get this sort of oversimplification of people's reasonings for why they do what they do, right? This guy is doing bad things because he is bad. We don't need to understand why he's doing the bad things. And I think looking at that story that Alfred tells, more than about the Joker, but the story he's telling, it just feels like an oversimplification of why somebody would do something that we perceive as wrong. We're just like, oh, because they're bad. And we don't want to look into maybe what the deeper reasonings behind that might be.
Which led me again to think about all these other folks, whether they be unhoused, homeless, whether they be young black and brown kids that are getting into trouble, ADHD. They label them ODD, oppositional defiant. They throw them away, just like I was thrown away. They throw a lot of us away, and the label is your pipeline to prison. Go fuck yourself. Good luck. But we don't think about why are they acting like this? Is it because they don't have food? Is it because their parents got mental health issues? Is it because there's some bipolar disorder in there? Is it because they got, financial instability? Is it because they've been fucking traumatized for years and years and years as they're black or Hispanic or Aztec in background? Right? What do we think about it? We don't. No one gives a shit. And so we were talking on a podcast. I think it's coming out next week. He's coming out next week on Ironheart. Dr. Hakeem, he's got a book called Not Just Bad Kids. And his whole thing is to make sure these kids have something else, that they know something else. They can want to be something else. And he's all his mentorship and teaching that he does. I just thought about how this affects all of us. Sometimes you do these things and there's reasons why. I even think about like self-harming, Kate, and they're like, oh, you must did that because you wanted attention. No, like, no, bitch, life is hard. And I'm sad. And that's why so much students self-harm, because they don't want to feel the pain. They want to feel a different pain. It's a distraction for some folks. It's a regulation and dopamine for some folks. It's something that helps folks regulate, but other people are like, oh, no, that's all bad. You're doing it because of this. You're doing it because, what do they say? You lack willpower.
Mm-hmm.
You also lack the moral ability to make good choices. I'm trying to remember the tropes that racist white folks say about us. You don't have the ability, you don't have the morals, you don't have the values, you don't have the ethics. You know, integrity is the word. To not fucking sell drugs and to get in trouble, you fucking monsters. Like, oh, okay. Didn't know that. I thought I was just a kid living my life, but all right. We rarely take the time, Kate, so I'm glad that you said that. Because we rarely think about why they're acting like that. And then some of my clients take a lot of shit too personal. Like that person might have had a bad day. I told a story today on how I thought this one dude was racist as shit at my old school. And because he would never look at me every time I would say hello, blah, blah, blah. I wouldn't introduce him. I'd just nod, say hello. And I asked one of the coaches to say, man, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? They're like, nah, his homeboy's blind. He can't see you. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Sometimes we don't think, and I don't think, I fall victim of this as well too. It's not just every other folks, it's me as well. Bro, that 9/11 shit is like scary, because this is when they do that. Isn't this when they tried to, after 9/11, they're trying to listen to all cell phones and all that shit, that big brother shit.
The whole NSA stuff. No, 100%. Yeah, that's absolutely, gets reflected in here too. And it's commented on as not a good thing, but again, they sort of put it forward as this like necessary means to deal with these issues. And again, yeah, it goes back with stop terrorism at any cost, no matter what the cost is. So yeah, and yeah, I appreciate just kind of everything you shared with that too, because yeah, I think that it is unfortunate how, as much as I love Batman, I love the shit out of Batman. That's why I chose this. I'm a huge Batman fan. I'm a huge comics fan. But Batman's story in general is all about willpower. His whole like ethos is willpower, like will over his feelings, the things that he wants to do. Like that's what it's all about. So there is, I think, yeah, that kind of message in here is that if you don't have that willpower, it is negatively looked at. Batman puts his will upon all others, and again, his judgment, and who gets to decide if that's right. So it's the whole who watches the Watchmen kind of idea here.
What's the name of the machine? The machine that watches everyone's cell phones and the cameras and all this shit? What's it called? When he's watching all the cameras and all that, it's called something.
I can't remember.
Because they said it in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. They was like, you got the Batman machine? Because they did the same shit in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, where they were spying on everybody.
I forgot the name. I know it would be easier if this was like Adam West Batman, because it would just be like the Bat surveillance system. Like, but I have no idea what.
Yeah, because
what this is called here.
Is this when Morgan Freeman was in there? And he's like, I'm not going to be part of this shit. Or this is a different movie with Morgan Freeman?
No, it's the same one.
Same one.
Yeah, this is the one now where he's like, I don't want to do this. So, and
he's like,
Batman's like, we have to.
Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Crazy ass shit. Yeah. All right.
But at the end, he destroys it. So,
Facts.
All I did was put in his name. There you go. So, final scene. This is the first time that Joker and Harvey are meeting face to face after Rachel's death, and of course Harvey getting his face burned off. Harvey at this point obviously is in a vulnerable state because of the pain he's in, not just physically but mentally as well. And so Joker comes in and he's telling him, it's not my fault that these people, like, it's not my fault. I'm just going by what the whole society is going with and all that. And I think this is one of those things of like villains who just seem like they have a point, right? It's one of those deals. Like a lot of people just like Thanos was right. We should kill half the population of everything. Why not? Seems like a good idea at this point. But for this scene, the Joker is really getting to Harvey, saying that, hey, you know what? Just because I want to kill, I have killed mayors, I've killed mobsters, I've killed all these people. Um, Society, it's not part of the plan. So I'm looked at as a villain, while death between like somebody who's a gangbanger or all this stuff. Hey, they don't look, they don't think that that's a bad thing. Okay, and you're like, sure. I mean, but at the same time, like, come on, dude.
Mhm.
It's still not good. Still not good.
Yeah.
Still not good.
It's not good, saying all that. But and I think that's why this Joker was so great, not just because of the not just because it was somebody who was just like crazy and does all this crazy stuff. It's somebody who in the madness also throws a point at you that you're like, huh, I guess I gotta think about that, right? We've had a lot of those villains in over the years, but this one really hit home. Um, and Heath Ledger did just an amazing job, obviously. But um, with that, Kate, what is something that you saw in this scene that you think like, hey, this might speak to some things today? Just maybe having like when you're at your most vulnerable and you have that Joker right here just being like, hey, you know what, you can do those bad things because
Here's your gun.
yeah, here's your gun.
Mhm.
And he even brings up the fact that even chaos is fair, which is it? Is it? Is chaos fair? Um, and somebody who has been so about law and order all of his career, somebody about fairness all his career, now is at a point where he's just like, oh, this crazy guy's really talking me into almost blowing his brains out. And he even in Joker, being the guy who he is, because he's not afraid of death, leaves it all up to chance, a flip of a coin, right? The flip of the coin, and obviously it works in his favor, then blows up the hospital. So, yeah. What are like? What made you want to do the scene? And then, how do you talk to people who have that Joker in their ear constantly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those people kind of on the edge. So, yeah, one of the things I kind of mentioned and what I liked about this scene is that kind of as you were saying, Joker comes across with these points. And never like, I mean, he's right in the sense that, like, yeah, if he had like, blown up a prison and I mean, we had the prison ship later. If you blew up people, that nobody in society cares about, people wouldn't be so upset about it. And that is absolutely true. Which is, tragic in its own right. But again, the actions that he's taking, that does not suddenly make those things okay. The argument he makes for chaos too, though, and this was part of why I chose this scene in particular, but you can see this illustrated through the whole movie. Joker constantly says he's an agent of chaos. He puts it out there that what he's doing is chaos and anarchy. And it's not, though. Everything that he does is so planned out and so ordered. He creates chaos through order, I think, right? Everything he does, like he has a scheme for everything. He's scheming from the very beginning, like that opening scene in the
Yeah.
the bank. Like every single thing was planned out there. Him getting arrested and taken to the jail and interrogated by like all of these things he planned out. It creates chaos, but he himself is not engaging in chaos. Everything he's doing is completely ordered. And it's interesting that you have this character who says that they're against order and the status quo and engages in it so fully, which I think that also we get some parallels maybe sometimes in reality right now. There is, this person here who is saying that I do not support the way society goes. I do not engage in these things. I do not scheme. I'm not a planner. but he's doing all these things the whole time. I'd even argue too, actually, with Harvey. I mean, he leans into that chance idea, right, with flipping the coin, but it's still almost like a dedication to order in some ways because he's still making the decision to do that, and he decides who to do that with. Like the thought I have with that is, I'm like, if I invited someone over to my house and you're sitting on my couch, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna flip this coin, and if it's heads, I'm gonna shoot you in the head, and it lands on heads, and I shoot you in the head. Like, who decided to kill you? Like, I still made the choice to flip that coin and make that decision. I didn't have to do that. So like he is still making these decisions. Like he uses a little bit of chance and luck in it to, I think, absolve himself of blame, but it is still his decision. And I think that's the danger in that decision making Harvey goes for there too, is that he creates distance from the decisions that he makes. It's not my fault the coin said that I had to kill you. But like you're choosing to use the coin, dude. Like you picked up the coin. So like I think we see a little bit of like you have these two characters that are talking about um chaos and luck and absolving order that are still doing these very ordered, thought out, methodical things. They're all sort of rigidly attached to something. Like Joker is very rigidly attached to like mayhem and destruction, and he uses order to get that. Um, Harvey uses order, I think, to get towards luck and chance, and Batman is also rigidly addicted towards law and order. So, but he does it in a more kind of obvious way. But I think all three of these characters use very ordered, structured means to get what they want.
Magnificent. So when Spencer was asking the question, so you got like this we call it sometimes a demon, that little thing that right that's sitting on your shoulder, whispering, telling you all these horrible things. Could be negative thoughts, intrusive thoughts, could be addiction. How do you work with folks that got that Joker putting shit in your head? How do you help people separate that? To get back to the question.
So I can say even just like on like the therapist side here.
Yeah.
Leaning in. So I mostly do acceptance and commitment therapy. That's like my main go-to model.
Okay.
So I love using ACT, and a big part of ACT is kind of two components I use with, particularly in addiction. Work with clients who maybe are feeling like, what's the point? I'm just going to relapse. Like I'm just going to go back. I might as well go back to the streets. I might as well. Right. We get that all the time. Is there's no reason. And there's like two components, right? We have one is this concept in ACT called diffusion, which is this idea that our thoughts they're not facts, they're just simply thoughts. It's kind of like almost parts work in some ways, where we have these thoughts that come up sometimes that tell us these terrible things, right? The thoughts that say, I'm an idiot, I'm a loser, there's no point to anything. I might as well just, do X, Y, Z. And part of what I do in therapy with people is help separate themselves from those thoughts, right? We are more than the things that we think. We are more than our bad parts. We're more than our good parts. We're also not our good thoughts. Those are things that we have, but they are not us. So that's a big thing I do, like as a therapist, is just sort of creating that understanding that those difficult thoughts, and I think, I'm sure we all see this too, is that a big thing that happens with clients is they'll go through years of therapy and those thoughts still come up. Sometimes they still have those negative thoughts. Sometimes they still have, and that can create like the sense of hopelessness of like, I've been doing this for years. I've been sober for this many years. And every so often I still think about using, or every so often I still think like once a week, like what an idiot I am. Like it hasn't gone away. And the acceptance model with like acceptance and commitment therapy versus maybe like CBT and some of these other models that we'll use is that we are working with people to learn to accept these thoughts as a part of us, to learn to accept that demon on our shoulder and say, I accept that you're there, but I don't have to listen to you. I don't have to do what you say. I just accept that this is something that comes up. I accept that I hear this. So that's a big piece, is learning to have that acceptance towards ourselves, acceptance towards our dark thoughts, to be able to, work with them instead of working against them. And working with them, right, is saying, hey, I hear what you're saying, but I don't have to listen to that. I'm curious what my other thoughts have to say. The other piece of acceptance commitment therapy too is just values work. I do a lot of values works with clients. So, sometimes too, and this happens a lot, where we have someone who's like maybe about to relapse or is struggling just to even make like a really big decision in their life. I will go back with values and I'll ask a client, okay, like we did our values inventory, and we talked about your values, and you told me you want to be a person who's honest, you want to be a person that has that's accomplished, you want to be a person that values family. And I'll ask, what would a person who values all of these things, what would an honest person, a family man, an accomplished person do in this instance? And a lot of times our values can help guide us towards a decision that fits into the person we want to be versus the person we fear we are. So those are some like kind of specific methodologies that I'll use just like in my work to sort of help people pull away, because realistically, we all have that demon on our shoulder. We all have those negative thoughts that say cruel things to us and cruel things about other people. It's just what we choose to do with them. It's always going to be there.
My client would say, but Nas, this drug allows me to be the man I need to be at work and with friends. It allows me to socialize. It allows me to be normal, to not be autistic. What would you say to the individual that told you that?
So it kind of depends, because again, I'm on the harm reduction side here too, but I would look at the negative consequences there with it, right? Okay, here's the positive. So this is what you want. You want to have all of these things. This drug allows you to do that. This drug is also causing potentially all these other side effects.
Psychosis.
Is there another way, right? Yeah, maybe the negative pieces here. Is there something else we can do or something else you can do that still gets you all those things you want, but removes the negative consequences? Because it sounds like it's not the drug that you want. It's that connection that you're talking about. It's the family that you're talking about. It's all the things that it gives you. And maybe there's a better way to get there than something that also causes you harm.
A lot of negative consequences. The drug some clients are using is that gas station heroin. This shit is the nickname of it. It's
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I see that a lot.
That opiate or whatever, that's synthetic. And so I got some folks buying black market shit, and they're just trying to be normal, man. And so harm reduction is the way we go, right? We go back, we go back, we go back, we go back. We do some added prescription drugs, right? Some stimulants to help them like be a little bit better. It's a son of a bitch. You get really scared, especially when they start telling you I ain't sleeping. Psychosis, the voices are coming out now. It's like, here we go. Here we go.
Yeah.
It's tough. Some folks got a lot of hopelessness too, but a lot of my clients are doing good. But that shit that you said, man, it can get that. It's acceptance is so hard.
It's the hardest thing. I always, teach it. It's hard. I also I'm certified in DBTs, so I do like DBT groups and stuff sometimes. And that's big thing I talk to people about with radical acceptance is I'm like, it sounds like the easiest one, and this is the hardest one we're going to go over. Like, this is the hardest skill I'm going to teach you. And acceptance, like, it exists on a spectrum. Like, sometimes you accept things and sometimes you don't. One of the phrases I love that comes with DBT is that acceptance is not approval. And I think that's a big thing that people have to remember when we're accepting those dark parts of ourselves, is that you don't have to like those parts to accept that they're there. You're just saying this is here. You're saying this is reality, not I accept this and I'm welcoming it. I'm happy it's here. It's saying I accept this is real. I accept this is a part of me. That doesn't mean you can't work to still try to get rid of it. That doesn't mean that you can't still take steps to try to, alleviate those symptoms. But acceptance is a means to do that. An example I give to clients all the time is I'm like, if I look behind me and there's a wall behind me, and I say, I don't want there to be a wall. I think that wall's stupid and annoys me. I don't want it to be there. And I walk into that wall, what's going to happen? Gonna smash my face into the fucking wall. That's going to be the result of that. Accepting a wall's there doesn't mean I like that there's a wall and that I want it to be there. But what I'm doing at that point is I'm saying, I accept this as a reality. How do I get around this wall? And that is going to give me way better results than just walking into a wall over and over and again ever will.
Before we get out of here, I just had a client send me a text. They said a bunch of stuff, and they don't want to do therapy anymore because it's just causing too much stuff. Some of my clients going to therapy is admitting a failure. It is a failure because you cannot do it on your own. The medication, you cannot do it on your own. And so that acceptance that there's stuff going on, it can't be done. The shame and the guilt is just too much. And so having to come talk to me is just too much because they can't do it on their own. I'm like, homie, you don't have to do it on your own. Like, you don't have to, but it's a failure. It's something that is inadequate within themselves, which allows and forces some of my clients to go towards a certain direction, whatever that coping skill may be. Maybe you're flipping a fucking coin and you're doing some heinous shit, or maybe you're getting really obsessive in your school, certain things. It is what it is. Acceptance is a son of a gun, especially when you're working with the autism population, so black and white. Some of my clients don't want to even accept the autism stuff. So acceptance is tough. I appreciate you coming on the pod today. I appreciate you chopping it up with us.
Absolutely. I had a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah, before you go, can you do some plugs? Where can people find you? Are you accepting clients? All that stuff. Let us know.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I currently accepting clients through Provia Psychology. That is where I'm doing private practice right now, so you can always reach out there. I do virtual and a little offer some in person here and there. Um, Also, therapist memes for drama queens is my meme page, so feel free to follow me on there. I post sometimes, as I said, so hopefully more soon.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. So with that, I'm Spencer. That's Nas, Different Special Podcast.
All right, everyone, much love, and remember, take care of yourselves.
Or don't.
Completely up to you. Peace.
There you go.